You also know the new finance minister. I think you used to work together about 10 years ago. Good morning. What can you tell us about him? Is he Eurosceptic or not?
No, he is not. He's a very safe pair of hands. I think that whatever he decides to do, he does it having in mind the bigger picture. So even if there's a talk of tax cuts on income taxation, he would make sure that this is balanced with a consumption taxation. He's not just a good economist. He has a deep knowledge of the public administration, and he knows the Italian public finances inside out.
Francesco, how should we take it when we understand that the new finance minister, Giovanni Tria, wants to rethink the relationship of Italy and the European institutions, but also other countries' relationship with the European institutions?
Well, considering the zeitgeist, considering the dominant narrative in this country, I think that what we now have is a government that is a Euro-reformist government, but not a Euro-revolutionary government. So this is a government that thinks it can be a loyal member of the EU and of the Euro, but is uncomfortable with the fiscal architecture, but wants to behave by the book. What I think that everybody was kind of fearful about was to have someone in the EU and in the Euro who would not even discuss things and would simply break away. So this is certainly not what we have now. We have a pretty balanced government. The cabinet team looks very balanced. You have experienced people. You have people who are also Europhiles. If you think of the new Minister of Foreign Affairs, Moavero Milanesi, a former Mario Monti minister, that's certainly a great friend of the EU. So if you ask me, we have a Euro-reformist government now, nothing worse.
Yeah, and I guess if you look at the Italian sovereign bond yields, they're down sharply. The stock market is up, Francesco. So you could actually really argue that we have that tail risk removed. However, how long do we think this government lasts? You have Lega and you have Cinque Stelle that are fundamentally, from different spheres. Like theologically, they're just different. They believe in different values.
Yes and no. They also cater to different geographies. The League is primarily based in the north of the country, whereas the Five Stars get their votes in the south. Whether they stick together or not depends very much on how the Minister of Finance sets the agenda. It is up to Giovanni Tria to do the reforms in a balanced way and to find a nice way to sequence the reforms so that both the League and Five Stars are comfortable with that.
Francesco, let me also bring in Alberto Gallo, who's been following the Italian situation very closely. Alberto, how do they finance some of the things that they promised? So how much do we expect this new government to actually fulfill the promises that they pledged during the campaign? And does VAT have to go up in Italy?
I think on paper it looks relatively balanced now, but we think this government will find hurdles when it comes to implementing some of the plans they have. In particular, funding a citizenship income will, and also reducing taxes to a flat tax rate will mean hiking taxes elsewhere. So one could be VAT, but we think that eventually, if the numbers stay the same on flat tax and citizenship income, you may have to do a wealth tax. So the only way you can envisage this is to make a wealth transfer from the haves and the old to the younger people, or to have a big deficit, which at the moment, BDP yields don't like. So we think there will be hurdles in implementing these plans.
Yeah, Francesco, are there big enough hurdles that the government and actually the various faction and stakeholders in this government will agree to?
Well, I wouldn't overly focus on the headlines. What is important with all these reforms is whether they kick in 100% from the very beginning, or whether these are gradual reforms whose implementation is gradual, like not everything simultaneously in the first place. It's also, let me say, about the universal basic income. The universal basic income as an incremental reform, so it's something that is just an add-on on top of previously existing subsidies, is fiscally problematic. But if you see it as part of a comprehensive rehaul of the entire welfare state, it may not necessarily be fiscally problematic.